Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Raise the Vibe with Liz. I'm your host, Liz Peterson, and today I have Jenny Schiltz joining me again, and her husband, Dan, is going to be joining us as well, and we're going to be talking all about Kambo. So Jenny and Dan Schiltz are divine partners. During their 30 years together, they have explored the in and outs of marriage, raising children, awakening, and now being healing partners. Jenny Schiltz has been on her awakening journey for over a decade and is a quantum shamanic healer and intuitive guide. Dan has helped her by being an anchor and support through all the shifts required to walk the spiritual path. In the past year, Dan too has embarked on his spiritual journey, and the couple became Kambo practitioners. This work has catapulted their divine union to new levels as they step into being caretakers of the divine flame. Jenny, Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I am so excited about this conversation, and I've been following you on Instagram and all the things for so long. I even got your email yesterday about a journey that's coming to Colorado, and I want to just dive in. Like, what is Kambo, and what was it that took you guys on this journey personally to start off with?
Well, Kambo is the secretion from the frog. It's the Philomedusa bicolor, and the secretion is it's poisonous, right? And it's the neurotoxin. And so what you do is, you burn you burn a little tiny hole in your skin, and then you put the secretion after it's been mixed with your spit, because what it does is it reads your DNA, it reads what you need. So then you put it on your spot, and your body goes through an entire cycle of chaos. It really is. Like, your body reads it and goes, oh my God, you've just poisoned me. What is happening? And so your blood pressure raises, you'll feel all the heat in your head. And that's the hard part, right? But then it's like your body reads it and goes, oh, that stuff is so amazing. Holy cow, I know exactly what to do with this. And then the medicine shifts, and it starts like scrubbing is the best way that I describe it. And it starts pulling out all this stuff, and it resets the body. So for me, I was really, a year ago, physically, I was struggling so much. The upgrades were just nailing me consistently. And I kept going, I don't know how I'm going to make it through this. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this shift, trying to keep my feet into multiple worlds and keep my health and my vitality. I kept asking Spirit, bring it to me. And so a client of mine actually contacted me. She said, I really want to share this medicine with you. I got involved with it, and I'd love for you to come out for a retreat. And so I dragged this one.
Kicking and screaming.
He didn't want anything to do with it. He was like, I don't know what you're getting me into. I can't believe we're doing this. And I would say at the end of the first retreat, I knew right then and there that I was going to walk the role as the practitioner immediately. I just knew it. I knew that I had to have it in my life. And he just looked at me and goes, I'm right there with you. And I was very surprised. I really thought it would be me going off to learn by myself, but we actually took it together. And in February, we went through an intensive training. We went down to Miami, and it's like you're in this Airbnb, and it is full on, because not only are you learning how to be a practitioner, but you're also dealing with all your own stuff. And so one of the things about Kambo is it pulls up, not only is it the physical side, but it's all the emotional stuff, right? Because we know so much of what we're going through physically has that emotional component. So you can go through so much. You can retrace injuries. You can finally get rid of some of that trauma that's been locked into the cells. But what was your impression that first retreat?
I had never opened myself up with any type of healing prior to that first retreat. So everything that we embarked on was completely foreign to me. But the processes that we went through allowed me to see both what was a mess within me, what needed attention, and gave me everything that I needed to sort out my own healing path.
Yeah.
The medicine, it's unlike anything else. It isn't something that you take for an ache. It isn't something that you take because you're feeling a little sad today. It isn't something that you take because you're low on energy. It does all of those things in a way that makes you want to appreciate where you are in this life form, in this universe, to be better. The Matse tribes of the Amazon faced certain extinction, as well as some other indigenous tribes throughout that area, when white man brought certain things into their society that they had no defense for, through their own faith and belief in what they had encountered with this medicine Kambo. They were able to essentially improve their immunity, improve their vitality, and essentially rise above what was basically taking down a lot of different, different tribes that may have been familiar to the area, different civilizations. As we look back through history, we can see a lot of repression in all forms of civilizations. Well, Kambo came into existence out of necessity to improve the human strength, is the best way that I could say it. I left that Kambo retreat, again, went there kicking and screaming, and I left there with a new sense of purpose. And I did not know at the first retreat that I would become a practitioner. I knew that I'd found something that showed me a better path in life. And from there, it is, I talk highly of it. I don't push it upon people. There's only a small, really there's so many limitations to who this medicine can help that I don't push it upon anybody. I let my actions and my overwhelmingly good health show through today more than I ever have in years past. And at 50 years old, I feel like I'm finally at a point where I don't have questions about my purpose and my standing in this civilization. And I can hold a lot of that to the value of Kambo. It is an amazing, amazing plant medicine that just allows a person to really see inside the depths of their own soul, to know where life has better purpose.
Wow.
So I just want to expand on something he said when he said that it's not able, it's only able to help a small number of people. And it can help a large number of people, but because of the intensity of the medicine, there's a lot of health conditions that can knock a person out from being assisted, you know. And it's like when I was talking to my sister about it, and she was having some issues, and I'm like, you know, once you get into that realm, once you start having to medicate something, once you're at this space, you get to the point to where there's too many counterindications for the medicine. So I will tell people, I'm like, as long as you're in really great health and you can answer the health questions, this is a medicine that can help you. And if, you know, if something like Kambo isn't able to help because maybe you've got some heart issues or something like that, there are other medicines, the other plant medicines that are available to kind of help people sink in deeper, get into the deeper layers.
Interesting.
But, you know, when we became practitioners, he and I, we will dose each other. I mean, every 2-3 weeks is usually our goal. And we work through some big themes together. And it's interesting because we can see where we're slipping, right? We can see where we're slipping back into the old way of thinking or the old way of being, or kind of going into that like a negative view or getting too lost in society, right? And it's like, it's time. We need to set up a time to dose each other and get back in alignment with ourselves again. And because what it does is it like quiets the noise. It quiets all that incoming.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's not an easy process.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Yeah, after what you said, Jenny, and Dan, about like the physical experience and that it's not for everybody. Can you walk our listeners through like what are some of the things that we have to look out for when we're signing up to do something like this? Like what are the like counterindications, I guess? And then who's a yes, who's a no? And then what should we expect when we sign up for this journey?
I would say the easiest way to begin is anybody who is taking any medications for anything.
Yeah.
If they cannot achieve within their own practices or with the assistance of their doctor, if they cannot achieve a point in their life where they can be off of their medications, Kambo is not for them. Kambo requires a completely clean system. Yeah. Before we begin a ceremony with Kambo, we have allowed our diet to reflect an absolutely pure diet, no red meat, no dairy. Those are the two big ones. Caffeine. So many different things. The agenda is to basically be introduced to Kambo as a clean slate.
Yeah.
Now, for so many people, getting off of prescribed medications that they may have been on for years is no easy task.
Well, I mean, and at the same time, there are prescription medicines that you can stay on, but it's one of those things where if someone's interested in Kambo, they need to come to the practitioner and then they need to list those meds out. They need to list the herbal supplements out as well. And, you know, like the group that I work with, there's a pharmacist and you contact the pharmacist and you go, okay, here's what I've got. This person's on this. The biggest counter indicator is heart issues. Yep. Truly. This is a heart medicine. It deals with how your heart pumps, how it circulates. And I mean, your heart really does get going with this as your body's reading the medicine. The other thing that can really be an issue is certain autoimmunes. Now there's some like, you know, you've got fibromyalgia or something like that. Those seem to be okay. But when you get into the ones like lupus or MS, sometimes when you aggravate the nervous system, not the nervous system, the immune system, it can go into a flare and it can send them into a spiral.
Oh, I see.
So all of those have to be really carefully looked at before the journey is taken upon. But there's a health questionnaire that people can really look at and go, okay, is this for me? And, you know, when we talk about like the clean slate, like there's no drinking, there's a time period to where you cannot have sex because you're wanting your vessel to be not only as pure as possible, but kind of as triggered as possible, right? When you take away all the vices, and, you know, Lord knows we all have some sort of vice, whether it's alcohol, whether it's smoking, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, food, caffeine, sugar. You take all that away, what you're left with a lot of time is a really cranky human being, right? But why? Why are you cranky? What's under there that you're masking? So the process, the week prior to a really good Kambo retreat can be intensive. That's learning in itself, you know. And, you know, it's kind of funny. Like my daughter's like, oh God, you guys are going to do a retreat. Like, oh God, we got to put up with you for a week. Like the two of you.
It really brings to the surface what the medicine is there to work on.
Yeah.
The medicine isn't applied in a way to target a knee pain. It isn't applied to for what we've been trained on. The medicine is only applied in two different areas, and that is the ankles and the shoulders. As different practitioners progress through their experience with it, there are advanced trainings that allow for the medicine to be more of a targeted medicine. And that's where it helps with certain cancers, certain other ailments that absolutely need to go to specific spots in the body to do the most good. For us, it is a realization that the medicine enters your lymphatic system, and that lymphatic system takes that medicine throughout your body, finds what is necessary to give you the most benefit, seeks it out, and, well, in most cases, you're going to purge whatever was never meant to be there. There is certain things that we are able to identify as practitioners. From a certain experience level, we can identify that a certain person might have been dealing with an emotional trauma. They might have been dealing with some heavy metals that were introduced to their body form. Some other little triggers that we might see within the ceremony that we only have, an awareness of from experience. But the medicine goes with setting the proper intentions, taking a very hard look within for the person to identify, especially during that week of basically not having vices to rely on. And generally the person will come out with a new understanding of what exactly it is that has allowed them to either walk a path in a downward spiral and give them promise to walk a path in an upward spiral. The first time I did Kambo, I couldn't even imagine eating unhealthy for like a week after Kambo because I was so elevated that I didn't want anything to taint it. The same thing goes with alcohol, goes with THC, goes with caffeine. After a session of Kambo, you want to remain in that clear space as long as possible. And the benefits of the medicine, they do wane over time, but it's almost like a gut punch to basically say, is this the right way that you want to live your life? And Kambo does that for you first and foremost, it's not a fun process. You literally feel like you're going to die. Generally, the ceremony lasts no longer than about 20 minutes.
Wow.
20 minutes, you are questioning everything about what you just did to put yourself in that position to have Kambo administered to you, because it is a neurotoxin and it is going to take over and it is going to bring discomfort. But with discomfort comes a period of time that a body can sometimes see life without discomfort. The Maasai tribes purposely used Kambo. They were a hunting and gathering type of civilization, and they used Kambo to get a better acute eyesight, to have a clearer mindset, to
smell,
rid themselves of what they called pania, I think it's called, which is like a black cloud hanging over you, just a
the funk in the aura.
Yeah, a funk in your aura. They would use Kambo to rid that, so that when they went off in charge of bringing home sustenance to provide for their entire community, they went out with the best available sharpened tool that they had, and they were the tool. So for us, Kambo has become something that is very much a part of our lives, in that we like to sharpen our tool as much as we can, because every human being has so much power within themselves. Each and every single person is so special, and so many people don't realize it. And this medicine has a wonderful quality of allowing a person to realize just how special the human form and the mind and everything can be. It's absolutely amazing. It's unfortunately, it is just not for everybody. When we go back to, the discussions of anything related to the heart, pretty much is a contra indication of being able to use a medicine. It's the same way you couldn't take every single person off the street and go ask them to run a marathon.
Right.
But generally, as humans, we all have the ability to live a better life. And for some people that may not make it through the health questionnaire, or may have some challenges, that just means there's challenges that need to be overcome if they were to pursue this, alternative means of keeping healthy.
Right. Awesome.
So I know for us, like it's interesting. It's like the day after Kambo, right? It's you wake up bright and early. I mean, early, like 5 a.m. and you're like, let's go. And so many times we'll just get up and we'll go out on the trail, and then go watch the sunrise. And you get so much done. And usually for me, like that first day it's just magic. It's just magic. You're completely connected and completely grounded. You got everything going on. You have all the energy in the world to take on everything. And during that time, I make a ton of notes, because I know that it's eventually gonna wane. And then I can go back to the notes. Okay, yeah, that's right. I need to do this. And that was a great idea. And I should do that. We have one of our son-in-laws. He's got severe ankle issues. He's basically got bone rubbing on bone. And so he'll do the medicine and he's like, I don't hurt. And it, and so there can be just this time period to where he isn't in severe pain. And anyone who's had severe pain, you start to realize how much it debilitates you and how much your life gets overshadowed by it. there's parts of it that will come in and start to help relieve pain. And, I've got some body pain myself. And so how it helps me with that, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So it's like, as difficult as it can be. And we have both purged, whether it's throwing up or crying, I yawn a lot, or shaking. I shake a lot too. And some people have it coming out the other end. It's just a part of it. It's like, what needs to leave your body? And so there's a lot of people in our lives who are like, what's wrong with you two? Why would you do this to yourselves? But if they understood the glory of it, right? And how each time that you do it, it's like you crack through another layer. Like we were working, like the last time that I dosed him, we were working on the divine masculine and bringing that forward in a way that can be vulnerable without being it misconstrued as divine feminine, right? And dealing with some of the archetypes out there. And I mean, so it's not small. It's not small stuff that we're pushing through together, And so, but I will say, like in the very beginning, it was like I was working on those final layers of like clearing out the cellular trauma. That's not easy. Not easy. And you need to be ready for it. And you need to be able to integrate after. So that is my only thing. I don't think people should just run off and do it.
No.
Like you need to be ready for it. You need to be ready, not only just for the physical part, because once you pass the health check, it's going to be fine. Like there's going to be parts of you that are like, what have I done? Why am I doing this to myself? But truthfully, it's going to be fine. It's the after. Are you ready to integrate everything that you just experienced, everything that you opened up? And so one of the reasons that they do the ankles, because we store our emotions down there. We shove it that far down. And so usually if we're dosing, it's like, okay, where is it going to be? Shoulder or ankles? And when it's ankles, and it really can determine left or right side, depending on what are you working on. And sometimes we do both sides. Are you working on balance of something? Right?
Oh, wow.
If it's ankles, we're dealing with the deep-seated emotional stuff. And it is interesting, like he was saying, like we can read, what someone is going through. I mean, because the purge bucket, you can look and like emotions is this gloppy, like white, like goop, and it's thick and it's full of like mucus, because phlegm holds cellular memory. Right. And so you're actually getting that out. Buckets that are, green, there's a lot of green in it. Usually the person's working through anger. So it's the gallbladder and liver letting it out.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's, it is really quite interesting. And when he dosed me, I had surgery 6 weeks ago. And when he dosed me, I knew it was going to be intensive because I was pulling out anesthesia. And it bucket was gnarly, and it was a lot, but I have trained myself, and I do have the ability that I leave. My body's going through it, and I am literally like on a shamanic journey, and I'll come back enough to throw up, and then I'm out again. And so I've started working with him that way, to kind of like, okay, come on, leave, just leave. You don't need to be here with this body that's going through this. Let your body's going to be fine. It's going to get you through it. But you can be off and learning, or you can be off experiencing peace, or whatever it is that you're needing in those moments, so that you're not so tuned into what is happening inside me, right?
Well, the medicine only requires one thing. It really does. It only requires one thing, and that is surrender. And the individuals, as me and Jen have on multiple occasions refused to surrender, that is the dying. That is the full-on hell that this medicine is willing to give. We've all been there, I'm sure. Worst hangover of our lives, or the worst sickness that just comes on and wants to take every bit of of energy that we hold inside of us and just wants to rip it out of us. That is Kambo. But Kambo is also one of the most beautiful medicines as well. I've had some journeys to where I absolutely was in full meditation for probably at least 18 to 19 minutes of a 20-minute stretch, just looking at everything that was, in control of me and walking that line of watching it all disappear in a total bliss. At the same time, I've been in ceremonies to where I couldn't hold myself up.
Yeah.
To where I just wanted to collapse and, call in help. I mean, it's the biggest and most important thing that the medicine asks for is that the person surrenders. And that's where the medicine knows you on that cellular level and knows if you're putting up resistance, it's going to make you pay for it. That is another reason why it is not for everybody. We can sometimes omit a person from eligibility just based on their attitude. They could be in perfect health, but if they live in a denial state of where they think that there is not improvement, it's time for us to step away, because it's not us doing anything for a client. It's the medicine. And we serve a purpose to make sure that the medicine is administered safe, that our clients are safe. And there are reasons for certain people to really question whether or not they're right for a particular path like this. Because there's other plant medicines out there. There's other ways that they can journey off into the nethers and seek out their own truths to life. This one actually does most of the work for you.
Yeah, so our teacher actually calls it the Mexican Autobahn.
Yep.
Because it's hard and it's fast, but it's really bumpy.
Rough.
Right? It's not smooth. It's not like the German Autobahn. It's like there's a ton of potholes. But you get there fast, but you have to be willing to go through the journey. It's a warrior medicine. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, and when we were in training, and there were times we were dosing twice a day. And then there were times like I'd get dosed and then be, get up, you got to do jumping jacks. And you're like, oh my God, I just barfed my brains out and was crying. And now I'm doing jumping jacks. And you're working it. And we don't do that to clients, of course, but, so we're absolutely breaking down all of those barriers. And, I would say what it did egoically was broke both of us down.
Yeah.
Completely broke us down, which was exactly what we needed. Right. But that's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Not easy. And we had heard from other people like, oh, you guys shouldn't train together. It was one of the best things I think we've ever done.
That was one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah. And he's done boot camp.
Yeah, I absolutely. Our training lasted for 8 days.
Wow.
And that was 8 days of more intensity than I was prepared for.
Here's what I found.
And I am more thankful from a healing standpoint for that training than anything else.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there was one point he left to go fill up the jugs of water. And I looked at someone else training and said, I don't know if he's coming back. Like there was the point there, I'm like, and he said, yeah, kind of thinking I was going to call you and be like, I'll pick you up on Saturday when it's done. Like, I am out. But he came back.
That's really interesting. I want to pause you there because I know when I'm going through something, if I start feeling like, oh, maybe I should leave or this or that, it's actually my body knows that something big is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned to trust that. Okay, I'm feeling like I want to run the hell out of here. So that's my cue that something big has happened and I just need to surrender and just be.
Yeah.
So bravo that you stayed the whole 8 days, because this sounds like Kambo just targets in on in the moment what it needs to clear, whether it's our stuck emotions in our body, where, you know, as I call it, horking, where when I've got somebody on the table and they bump into something emotional and they start coughing and they're horking up all of that phlegm, that's that emotion coming out of the body. Or as you said, you know, with the liver and the gallbladder, where you're purging that anger and grief, possibly, and or where you're going in and uncovering those limiting beliefs, or, you know, you're setting an intention to dive into that light masculine, you know, as opposed to that dark masculine, and, you know, find balance. What a gift this sounds like, where if you want to target and really set intention, you can go in there and like get straight to it.
You can.
You absolutely can. You can work on it layer by layer.
Mm-hmm.
It is never anything. I mean, we can't cure ourselves of all of our crap in one Kambo sitting or any other practice that we may get into. We can't do it all in one. And the greatest thing for me on my healing journey with Kambo is that I don't have to go into it with the exact same intention every time, but the medicine will let me know how the two intentions may interconnect. And I may not even know it until I'm 15 minutes in, and
the realization comes in. You're like, oh, I see it now. I see the theme. I see the thread.
Yeah. And it's the, I think Jen had mentioned the integration. You know, with anybody that does, take the path of Kambo and embark on that journey, the most important thing is that they allow themselves time to integrate, because this isn't something to where you just automatically, come out of Kambo, pick up that cheeseburger, grab that glass of wine, or jump right back into work. Our musical tastes have changed since Kambo. Our harmony in the household has changed because of Kambo. And you really start to identify when you're requiring to give yourself that space to properly integrate everything that you just learned out of a 20-minute ceremony. You start to realize that you have the power to control that. You just granted yourself this time to integrate, and then you start to look at it weeks and months down the line from when you last did Kambo, and you go, I have the power. I can just make, a little bit more time for myself and be a little bit more present. So I can look at layers that I took down a year ago. I can look at layers that I took down 6 months ago. I can look at layers that I just took down 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And I can find a connection in all of them.
Wow.
You know, it's so fascinating to watch. We have older girls that are in their 20s, 28, 25. And then we have a 14-year-old because we're insane. And, it's like I can look at how we were as parents for the older ones, right? And I can look at even just the difference in how we parented a year ago when we started this journey to now. And now it's like, it's not, we still make our mistakes. We still are not perfect. We're still dealing with a teenager, but the language is different. How you approach it, how you get triggered, right? Because you really don't. You just kind of step back and you're just like, it's okay. This isn't about me. None of this is about me. And you're able to like shift it. So it's fascinating having that gap between the kids and seeing the difference between what was the best we had at that time to what is now really this conscious parenting. And it's fascinating. It's going to be interesting to see how that shifts her. You know, like, what does this look like for her in her life? Because we're completely out of the box, you know, as far as parents compared to what we were for the older ones. And, you know, I've said to her, I'm like, I know that this is hard for you. You have parents that run off to a jungle. You know, you have parents that will do things and they burn each other, and, you know, all these things happen. And I said, I know that this is really difficult for you to process. And, you know, and she'll just kind of look at me and she's like, yeah, she's like, you guys are the weird ones. And I'm like, I know. But what we're also giving her is no limits.
Yeah.
Like, she can live the life she wants to live. I don't want to say no rules, because of course she's got rules, but there's no box. What do you want to do? What is going to make your heart sing? And it doesn't matter if somebody else is going to look at that and go, that's crazy, that's stupid. So what? Do it anyway. And I think that that's different than the parents we were with the older ones, you know? And so it is going to be fascinating to see. And I mean, she's asked me, she said, well, would you dose me? I'm like, say you're 18, let's go. I'll dose you, you know? Because there are groups that will dose children. I'm not one of them. At this stage. So, but I mean, it is interesting, because I'm like, yeah, you know, which is what a different world, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up too, because we are in a different world now. I look at how I parented 27 years ago compared to how I'm parenting my 15-year-old now, because my oldest is 27, my youngest is 15 out of 4 boys, and right. It's a completely different person. You know, and he's getting a completely different upbringing, but this is a completely different time that we're in as compared to late 90s, early 2000s, and now is completely different paradigm that we live in now. Absolutely. And so many things are opening up for everyone and the children, and that the children are in a different mindset.
Completely.
Totally different mindset than my older children were at their age, you know, doing things or thinking about things. There's an emotional maturity that's kind of coming along with my youngest that my oldest, you know, didn't gain until much later in his teens and early.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I would agree with that.
When we came back from our training in Miami, my parents were here tending to the duties of the house. They were here with Madison. They were here with the dogs. They stepped in to take on that role that we weren't here for. And when we came back from Miami, it was apparent to us how much in our efforts, in what we were doing to improve ourselves, how much of an effect we have the ability to have for people that cannot even consider Kambo. And whether that be our daughter, who at this age we wouldn't go there, or my parents who have had different ailments in their lifetime that at this moment preclude them from being able to do Kambo. We were able to talk. And my parents spent the entire day after we arrived back from the airport here early on that particular morning, and we talked for hours. We talked about family legacies. We talked about different traumas, different happy things, different effects throughout my entire life. And that was what was steering the conversation, that I could now relate with my parents, that I couldn't even discuss with them, good and bad, prior to that trip. And in doing that, because of that presence and where we were with Kambo at that moment, because we were on an absolute, I mean, we were on cloud nine. I mean, we had just gone through one of the greatest healing processes I've ever been through in my life. And we could see through relationships that making yourself a more clear person actually has an effect on the person standing next to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, that's how we perceive our parenting with our youngest daughter.
Yeah,
we
really.
want to be the best that we can be. We want to take away the anger. We want to take away the sadness. We want to take away the different emotions that flow through our body, induced mostly because of stresses that we have within the world that we live in, and not make our position a position that puts that strain on our children. I can look at my upbringing, and that's what that major discussion was with my parents, and I could draw back upon it and have a conversation about it, and how I have lived with certain personality traits or certain behaviors for 50 years. And now I'm at a point where I could recognize them and draw back to those moments and go, you know what? I can make a choice to allow a forgiveness or a more passive response to those actions. And therefore, I'm not carrying it into my children's lives. So we couldn't be happier with where we were able to align ourselves with Kambo. And we don't do Kambo for, to generate money. We don't do Kambo because it gives us a great high. We do Kambo because it makes us feel good about ourselves.
And you're healing. What I'm hearing is that you're healing yourself, generational trauma, intergenerational trauma. You're rippling through your family who's not able to partake in this medicine, but it is still rippling out to them.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and when you look at, being a parent, it's like, it's such a hard job, right? And all we want is to do better. All we want is to be clear and to provide more for our children and our grandchildren, not, financially or things, because none of that really matters at the end of the day. What we want is to provide that foundation so that they can explore their world. They can explore their emotions. They can feel safe to do all these things. And so what we're doing is we're breaking down the barriers within ourselves to where we haven't felt safe. And it is literally shifting everything. I mean, especially with him, because he's had people just out of nowhere be like, okay, what did you do? What did you change? And he's like, oh man, and it has been a very fast year,
1 year.
Literally, it was Halloween last year. And, I've talked to Spirit and I'm like, they've said to me, they said, because I did so much work prior and I was like, I kind of laid that groundwork. I'm now able to just kind of hold that space for him, and a lot of divine unions are going through that right now, to where you have the one that's already kind of laid the groundwork, standing back and going, yeah, and holding the space. And as they're doing that, because they actually showed it to me in a dream the other day, because my God, we were both so cranky the other day, and it was like we had to put ourselves to bed. And, and I was, but there wasn't a reason to be cranky, right? Yeah. So I'm like, what is this? And I actually dreamed about it. And it was he and I, and they were showing us the quantum ties between us and how the downloads were coming in. And it was almost like we were dividing things up. Like, I can handle that. You can handle this. Okay. And then it was going through the quantum and it was healing both of us.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, this is a huge shift, a huge change. for what the couples are now going through, right? It's no longer she's working on this, he's working on that. Now it's like we're working as a team and we're moving really, really quickly. So it's going to be interesting to see what does that look like. And I know that Kambo facilitated that for us.
That's amazing.
We truly are. What was that?
When you were saying that, I had goosebumps all up and down my neck.
Yeah.
I mean, my body was like,
your body was like, yeah.
It was so powerful. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That is amazing.
We take a lot of reward in serving the Kambo as well. As a practitioner, you're able to see a vulnerability. For me, a vulnerability that I've never witnessed before with a person that is breaking down their own walls. And you're right there with them. You're right there in their field. You're within reach. You're within touch. You can hear them. You can feel their breath. And you are a witness to a transformation. And that's probably why anytime there is a suggestion between me and Jen about dosing, like we've come upon that period to where we're like, okay, we kind of need to dose. Neither one of us backs down and goes, oh, this again. No, we look forward to our roles in it. We as practitioners, we have an option to self-dose. And we do that on occasion. And I don't like it. We also have the option for each one of us to dose each other, allowing us to go deeper in and to connect with our intentions a little bit more aggressively, knowing that you have the safeguard of the practitioner in front of you, as well as you have their experience. There comes subtle actions on the part of the practitioner, not to ever steer a journey, but to read the energy coming off of a person to keep them in confidence, keep them focused on what they have set out to accomplish, to keep them aware of what's going on, that they're safe, that they're anything that they're experiencing is expected, to hold their hand. And that's a wonderful gift that Kambo has given me, that nowhere along the lines in all of my career paths or anything has it allowed me to explore. And so I'm very fortunate for that as well. It's nice to be that deep into somebody's presence that you actually can feel the energy shifting in the room.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And I think people need to realize that these situations are different in sacred ceremony than they are in recreational.
Oh, yes. Completely.
It's completely different.
Completely different. I mean, and just working with the intention, right? And really, none of this is play, right? I've had some amazing Kambo experiences that are actually blissful, like euphoric, but it's still not play. It's all the purpose of moving me to the next spot, showing me what I've hidden from myself, right? Like it's, and I agree with him. It's like being able to witness that transformation it's really beautiful. And then it's like, it's kind of weird to say, but it kind of helps you fall in love with humans, right? Mm-hmm. Helps you fall in love with people, because we're all so convoluted and layered, and we've got every single one of us has our stuff, but we're all so similar. We're all just trying to be okay, you know, and to hold that space for someone and to allow this incredible medicine to do its work. It's really, really quite an honor. Really quite an honor.
And we're doing it the best that we possibly can to honor the traditions that brought it into our lives. This isn't a medicine that, fortunately, isn't a medicine that has been allowed to shape its own course. The way that we were taught was the same practices that if you were to travel to Peru and go into the jungle and meet with the Maasai shamans, they would perform it the exact same way that we do. They would take the same safeguards to honor the integrity of the medicine, as well to clear the energy from the space so that it is safe on a spiritual level as well as physical level.
Yeah.
So it is very much a ceremony. And like when we go through with people on setting the intentions, that's a ceremony within a ceremony. Because of what we are asking the person to unveil for us, they have to know that this is for their greater good. This isn't so that they can tell us a story and we can go share with our friends or anything like this. This is so that we can get to a certain level with the person. And that's not for our benefit. The only thing that we are doing is bringing the ceremony to or in practice so that it opens the person to what they need to work on. And then the medicine on a cellular level takes over, says, I got you. Might hurt a little, might not, but I got you.
It might.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this one to drag me kicking and screaming.
He was kicking and screaming.
I'm grateful that I've met the people that have allowed me to learn of this medicine. Grateful for their impact in my healing. And I'm grateful that I have the ability to carry on that healing for the people that I love in front of me. So
that's beautiful. I hear that you have a lot of gratitude and you want to take that healing that you've experienced and bring it forward for other people to be able to experience that healing within themselves. You know, that honor to be able to stand witness to another person's healing and know from your own experience what a benefit this is going to be to their lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This is great, guys. I'm really loving everything that's coming through. Thank you so much, both of you. As we're coming to an end of our talk today, is there anything else that is burning inside of you that you would like to share with our audience before we go?
Well, I had put out to my mailing list yesterday, and I'll announce it here. So the people that we trained with they're still doing these retreats, and it's 3 or 4 days. It's intensive. You're doing Kambo, you're doing Bufo, which is DMT, and Tepesquite, which is like a Mayan ayahuasca. And the way that they structure it, you are nailing your stuff. It is extremely, extremely healing. And so they have it listed under what they call Quantum Kambo, because it's all surfaced around, like based around the Kambo. So you clear your body from the Kambo so that the other plant medicines can do their work and take you even further.
Oh, wow.
So they are doing retreats. There's one coming up in November in Colorado, and then they have some planned in January and March. You can find them online under Quantum Kambo. And I recommend it. I really do. So if you're wanting that entire experience, it's a great group to work with.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenny.
Yeah.
And thank you, Dan. And how can people, if they want to work with you, reach you guys?
They can email me. That's the best way. Jenny@jennyschiltz.com. And my website is jennyschiltz.com. And just get on there, email me, and we'll start looking at it.
Awesome. This is great, guys. Thank you so much.
It's really great
for joining me today. This has been a fantastic conversation. So informative. Thank you so much. I appreciate you both. I have a lot of gratitude for this and the work that you're doing in the world. I think it's lots of people need to do their work these days to help people through the process that we're going through right now is really important.
I think people are ready.
Yeah, people are ready.
They're ready. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you,
Liz.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Dan. And thank you, everyone, for joining me today. This is Raise the Vibe with Liz, and I'm your host, Liz Peterson. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Raise the Vibe with Liz. And if you'd like to reach me, my website is lizshealingtouch.com. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day. And remember to get out there and raise the vibe. Thanks, everybody.